Hi, hello, it's Editing Amy, coming in here to say that I was supposed to upload this video on the anniversary of Frasier, but while I was editing, it became the next day, so consider this a late anniversary video about Frasier, or just a regular normal ass video about Frasier. Ignore whatever I say in the intro because clearly I missed the deadline or whatever.
Copyright disclaimer, under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Today's video was supposed to be about Project Britannica. I know I was supposed to be reacting to the new updates. We got another video that they uploaded to watch, so that thumbnail really should be changed, but lazy. But today, we're not really talking about it, as you could tell from the thumbnail and the title of the video. We're talking about Frasier. Now, there are a lot of videos about Frasier on YouTube. So if my video isn't that good, I will recommend a 2-hour video I watched. Well, I watched it from my friend Bob, who you've seen on this channel before. He was in my Monkey video about Daydream Believers, the biopic. He loves Frasier. Well, currently he's watching a different show, but he likes Frasier, and he told me to watch the video because I never watched Cheers or Frasier, and he wanted to know if there were any spoilers in that video because he's never, I think he wasn't finished with Frasier yet. I don't know. I don't know if he's still watching Frasier. I really should ask him. Oh well. But yeah, I've never watched Cheers or Frasier, so like this will be fun, won't it? Yeah, I'm gonna try my best, but let's not worry about that. Now I can't show clips of the show while I talk, because Viacom, they're owned by Paramount. Yeah, they're owned by Paramount, and the revival is owned by Paramount too. Hopefully they don't get me for that clip I showed before. I'm gonna have to edit it out if I do. But anyways, so while I talk over the overview, I'm just gonna show you pictures that my friend Bob drew of Frasier. I don't know if he'll be happy or hate me. I really should be asking him these things. I'm gonna ask right now, hold on. He's cool with it, let's go! Psychiatrist Frasier Crane returns to his hometown of Seattle, Washington, following the end of his marriage and life in Boston, as seen in Cheers. Yeah, I really should be mentioning this a lot. This is a spin-off to Cheers. This is taking one character from Cheers and giving them a spin-off. Anything that happened in Cheers gets referenced in Frasier a lot. And so I just feel like I should just add that. Editing Amy coming in here to quickly say that Frasier actually isn't even the first spin-off for Cheers. I didn't know that, but the first spin-off for Cheers is The Tortellis, which actually stars Casey Kasim's wife, Jean Kasim. I didn't even know that she acts too. I didn't even know he was married. But rest assured, this will get a video. Just I'll work it out in my schedule later. His plans for a new life as a single man are challenged, though, when he is obliged to take in his father, Martin, a retired Seattle Police Department detective who has mobility problems after being shot in the line of duty during a robbery. After reluctantly taking his father in, Frasier and Martin conduct a series of interviews to hire a physical therapist and caregiver for his father. Martin, much to Frasier's dismay, is particularly keen on hiring a British caregiver as a live-in, and after a short squabble, the two agree to hire Daphne Moon for the position. Much of the series focuses on Frasier adjusting to living with his dad, with whom he has very little in common with, and his constant annoyance with Martin's dog, Eddie. Cute dog, by the way, adorable. But anyways, Frasier frequently spends time with his younger brother, Niles, who is, the best character. I don't watch the show, but, Niles voiced a character in, Treasure Planet. And I was like, oh my god, it's Niles. Anyways, Niles is also a psychiatrist, and he becomes attracted to Daphne, and eventually, should I say this spoiler? I don't know if my friend Bob got up to that part. I'll just say it. He marries Daphne. It's been a long time since Frasier's aired, okay? Like, Frasier came out in, like, what, the 90s? I don't even know. In the clip you saw before, that hopefully doesn't get me copyright blocked, Frasier hosts a podcast? No, it's a talk show, but really, he should be hosting a podcast in the revival. I don't know if he is, because, well, if Bob's not watching it, neither am I. But he hosts a show. It's a call-in psychiatry show called The Dr. Frasier Crane Show. And though they share a few commonalities, Frasier's producer, Roz Doyle, becomes his friend in the series, and she's depicted as both direct and sarcastic. Her somewhat superficial relationships with men are a frequent topic of conversation until she becomes pregnant with her daughter Alice. Roz and Frasier share a professional respect and a wise sense of humor, and over time the two become close friends. Frasier, along with the other characters in the series, often visits the local coffee shop Cafe Nervosa, making it a frequent setting. So kind of like when he goes to the bar and Cheers and they go, "Did Frasier," or blah blah blah. Niles and Frasier both have expensive tastes and intellectual interests and high opinions of themselves, and they always frequently clash with their dad. The close relationship between the brothers is often tense, and their sibling rivalry intermittently results in chaos. For two psychiatrists who make a living solving other people's problems, however, they are often inept at dealing with each other's hang-ups. Other recurring themes in the series include Niles' relationship with his unseen first wife, Maris, whom he later divorces, Frasier's relationship with his ex-wife, Lilith, who resides in Boston with their son, Frederick, Frasier's search for love, Martin's new life after retirement, and the various attempts by the two brothers to gain acceptance into Seattle society. Listen, guys, okay, this show came out in 1993. Damn, it ended in 2004? I ended a lot of shows. Oh my god! For context, I was born in April of 2004, and in May, Friends ended, and Frasier ended. Frasier ended on May 13th, while Friends ended, like, I would say a week, like, the first month of May. Like, I was born, like, at the end of April, so, like, the first week of May, that's when I think Friends ended, so I ended 2 TV shows. My birth was so chaotic. I ended 2 TV shows. I ended 2 TV shows that ran for a long time, although, granted, Frasier ran longer than Friends. How many seasons did Friends have?
Hey guys, Walter here. So, Frasier aired in 1993 while Friends aired in 1994. Frasier had 11 seasons while Friends only had 10. Friends aired their final episode on May 6th, while Frasier aired their final episode on May 13th. So technically when Amy was born in the end of April, Friends ended on the first week of May. I don't really know why she assumes that her birth ended these shows, but hey, she's a bit strange sometimes.
So for people who are like just getting into The Simpsons and haven't really caught up yet, you may not know that Kelsey Grammer has been Sideshow Bob since 1990. So while that's one Frasier star who's been in The Simpsons, there's actually 2 other Frasier stars who have been in The Simpsons. A good example being Niles. The actor for Niles is Sideshow Bob's brother Cecil, or Cecil, as Sideshow Bob would say it. He was in the 1997 episode, and the episode was called Brother from Another Series. That's actually what it's called, my god. A reference to Frasier. It even included a Frasier-style version of the theme song for a transition, and it's a iconic title card for the same thing. And Pierce, or the guy who played Niles, so just Niles, he returned to play Cecil for a second time, the first since Frasier had concluded, alongside Kelsey Grammer in the 2007 episode, Funeral for a Fiend. This is when Bob fakes his death, but this is also when they introduced their father, Dr. Robert, Sideshow Bob's dad. He is played by the guy who played Frasier and Niles' dad. That's wild.
Hey baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
So, how was Frasier created? It's not exactly the first spin-off of Cheers. So how'd they even come up with the idea of giving Frasier, of all people, his own spin-off show? Well, you see, during the 8th season of Cheers, Kelsey Grammer made a deal with former Cheers producers David Angel, Peter Casey, and David Lee, who are moving on to produce Wings, which is a show that Peter Tork made a cameo in. Just thought you should know that. Any hoodle. That they would do a new series together once Cheers ended. Once it became clear during the 10th season that the 11th season would be the last, the group began working on their next series together. Now, Kelsey originally didn't want to continue playing Frasier, and Angel, Casey, and Lee did not want the new show to be compared to Cheers, which they had worked on before making Wings. So the three proposed that the actor play a wealthy Malcolm Forbes-like paraplegic? It's an impairment in motor or sensory function in the... So basically what the original concept of Frasier was that Kelsey Grammer was going to play some dude who was wealthy and a paraplegic publisher who operated his business from his apartment, and it featured a street-smart Hispanic live-in nurse who would clash with the main character. And while Kelsey did like the concept, Paramount Television didn't. And they just said, why don't you just do a show about Frasier? And so they did. But the producers set the new show as far from Boston as possible to prevent NBC from demanding that the other characters in the old show make guest appearances on the new show during its first season. After first choosing Denver, Angel, Casey, and Lee changed their location to Seattle. Why'd they change it to Seattle? Well, because Colorado passed a law back then that prevented municipalities from enacting anti-discrimination laws protecting gay, lesbian, or bisexual people. And that's why it's in Seattle. I thought it was because of other things. I thought because Seattle's cool, but that's also a cool reason. So the creators didn't want Frasier in private practice because it would make the show resemble the Bob Newhart show. From an unused idea they had for a Cheers episode, they conceived the concept of the psychiatrist working in a radio station surrounded by wacky yet lovable characters. After realizing that such a setting was reminiscent of WKRP in Cincinnati, the creators decided to emphasize Frasier's home life, which Cheers had rarely explored. A good example being that on Cheers, Frasier didn't have a brother. And not only that, his dad was a research scientist who had died. So Angel, Casey, and Lee did not realize this was the case as they were not working on Cheers during the season 2 episodes. Those 2 episodes that were filmed that mentioned that, Frasier had a dad that was dead and also didn't have a brother. So the creative team were well into the development process when Kelsey Grammer pointed out the continuity error, basically, and they decided to overlook it, initially retconning the character's backstory. So in a second season episode, the discrepancy was resolved as Frasier revealed he had to lie to the Cheers gang about his dad, which, whatever. One element from the original concept that was carried over to the live action. Okay, so the one concept that they kept from the original concept was the live-in healthcare provider for Frasier's father. Kelsey Grammer pointed out that very little of the Frasier crane of Cheers carried over to Frasier the show, as his family history was changed, though this was later adjusted. The setting, his job, and even the character himself changed from the Cheers predecessor, having to be more grounded as a central character of the show, so the other supporting characters could be more eccentric.
And maybe I seem a bit confused. Yeah, maybe, but I got you pegged.
Frasier now Niles' dad, Martin, was actually based on the creator Casey's father, who spent 34 years with the San Francisco Police Department. The creator suggested to NBC that they would like to cast someone like Mahoney, to which NBC told them if they could get Mahoney, they could hire him without auditions. Both Grammer and the producers contacted Mahoney, and the producers flew to Chicago to show Mahoney the pilot script over dinner. Upon reading it, he accepted. Grammer, who had lost his father as a child, and the childless Mahoney, immediately built a close father-son relationship. Oh, my heart, that's actually really sweet. Aww. In discussing Martin's nurse, Warren Littlefield of NBC suggested that she may be English instead of Hispanic, and suggested leaves for the role. Grammer was initially reluctant, as he thought the casting made the show resemble Nanny and the Professor, which is, it's an early 70s American sitcom. Don't know anything about it. But he approved Leaves after a meeting and a read-through with her. Mahoney and Leaves quickly bonded over their shared English heritage. Mahoney was originally from Manchester, the hometown of Leaves' character. He's a Manchurian! He's a Manchurian! Now, like I mentioned before, Niles never existed in Cheers because Frasier told everyone in Cheers that he was an only child. However, Sheila Guthrie, the assistant casting director on Wings, which Peter Tork made a cameo in an episode of, well, sorry guys, I have to keep having this weird cough, you know, brought producers a photo of Pierce, whom she knew from his work on The Powers That Be, which is another sitcom that was created by David Crane and Marta Kaufman. Ooh. Anyways, and noted his resemblance to Kelsey Grammer when he first appeared on Cheers. She recommended him should they ever want Frasier to have a brother. The creators were blown away by his resemblances to Kelsey Grammer and his acting ability. They decided to ignore what Frasier said in Cheers and created the role for Pierce. Pierce accepted the role before realizing he had not read the script, but once he was given the script, he was initially concerned that his character was essentially a duplicate of Frasier, and he thought that it wouldn't work. The first table reading of the pilot script was notable because the producers had never heard either Pierce or Mahoney read lines, and they were just cast without auditions, bro. The only character who required an audition was Roz Doyle, who was named in memory of a producer of Wings. The producers auditioned around 300 actresses, with no particular direction in mind. Women of all ethnicities were considered. Lisa Kudrow was originally casted in the role, but during rehearsals, the producers decided they needed someone who could appear more assertive in her job and take over control over Frasier at KACL, and Kudrow didn't fit that role. The creators quickly hired a Giplin instead, who was their second choice. Now, I don't mind this at all, because then a year later she would be in Friends, so this really, you know, I would like to think in a timeline if they picked Lisa instead of Giplin, we wouldn't have Lisa Kudrow as the Phoebe Buffet in Friends. It just wouldn't be the same without her. The original focus of the series was intended to be the relationship between Frasier and his dad, and it was the focus of most of the first season episodes. Once the show began airing, however, Niles became a breakout character, and more focus was added to the brothers' relationship and other plots centering on Niles, starting in the second season. The producers initially did not want to make Niles' wife Maris as an unseen character, because they didn't want to draw parallels to Vera, who was Norm's wife on Cheers. They originally intended that she would appear after several episodes, but they were enjoying writing excuses for her absence so much, they eventually decided she would remain unseen, and after the increasingly eccentric characteristics described to her, they concluded that no real actress would be able to portray her anyway.
But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
I of course mentioned that the entirety of Frasier takes place in Seattle, Washington, but I haven't really talked about his apartment, or actually his apartment really is fascinating to me. Of course, we will be talking about the radio studio, but also, like, the apartment just is really, really, really... it makes no sense. Frasier's apartment was designed to be ultra-modern in eclectic? E-C-L-E-C-T-I-C. Whatever. It was supposed to be in the style, as Frasier pointed out in the pilot. One of the show's signature elements that became well known for was the apartment's design, which included elements such as a slightly split-level design, doors with triangular wooden inlay features, numerous pieces of well-known high-end furniture, such as replica of Coco Chanel's sofa, and both Eames's lounge chair and Wasley's chair, and a notable view from the terrace, which was frequently complimented by visitors. The main set consisted of the open concept living area with a sitting/TV space and a dining area on the lower level and a piano exit to the terrace on the rear upper level. The set also included a kitchen through an open archway, and a small section of the building corridor and elevator doors were built, as was a powder room. That's the dookie room. But anyways, you don't want to hear me yap about that. You want to hear me yap about why the apartment makes no sense. And then we can move on after that, because I'm not going to talk about the knockoff Central Perk, even though this came before Friends, but that's besides the point. You see, the reason why Frasier's apartment makes no sense is because there is no building or apartment in Seattle that really has a view from Frasier's residence. It was created so that the Space Needle, the most iconic landmark of Seattle, would appear more prominently. According to the Season 1 DVD bonus features, the photograph used on the set was taken from atop a cliff, possibly the ledge at Carey Park, a frequent photography location. Despite this, though, Frasier has been said to have contributed to the emergence of an upscale urban lifestyle in the 1990s Seattle, with buyers seeking properties and locations resembling that depicted in the show, in search of that cosmopolitan feel of Frasier.
They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face. What is a boy to do?
These are all the celebrities that, did voicing for, they called in, to go on, the show, the fake show. They used to have, anonymous people doing that, before, as you can tell, but then eventually they had actual celebrities call in, and sometimes they would, even come in, actually. Estelle Parsons and Rosie Perez, and, I'm trying to find her name. Lenny, she plays Frasier's final love interest. I wish I cared, but oh well.
See if I understand you, the problem I think you said.
Oh my.
I did mention that the whole point of Frasier was to move him away from Boston, where Cheers took place in, and despite the fact that Frasier is far away from Boston and far away from Cheers, some cast members of Cheers did make appearances on Frasier, with the exception of Rebecca Howe, played by Christy Alley. Lilith Sternin, who's played by Bebe Neuwirth, was the only one to become a recurring character, appearing in a total of 12 episodes. I'm pretty sure Lilith is Frasier's ex-wife. Well, it says that she first appeared as a date for Frasier. I don't watch I really should watch these shows. In the 8th season Cheers episode, Two Girls for Every Boyd, Frasier tells Sam Malone, played by Ted Danson, that his father, a research scientist, had died. In the Frasier season 2 episode, the show where Sam shows up when Sam meets Martin, Frasier explains that at the time, he was angry after an argument with his father on the phone. However, in the show where Woody shows up after meeting Martin, Woody says he remembers hearing about him. Woody, played by Woody Harrelson. Isn't that crazy? He was so cute in Cheers. Aw, how adorable. Look at him, he's so cute. In the 9th season episode of Frasier, 2002's Cheerful Goodbyes, Frasier returns to Boston to give a speech, and Niles, Daphne, and Martin come along to see the city. Frasier runs into Cliff Calvin, whatever, played by John Ratzenberger. Hey, that guy sounds... Oh, it's that guy! And never mind, I was about to say, why does he sound familiar? And then I was like, oh, he was in Cheers. I didn't know that. And also, he was in the first spinoff for Cheers, which we'll talk about in a different video. So they meet up at the airport and learn that Cliff is retiring and moving to Florida. Good for you, Cliff. I just wish you didn't pick Florida. Frasier and company attend Cliff's retirement party, where Frasier reunites with the rest of the gang from Cheers, minus Sam, Woody, Diane, and Rebecca, including bar regular Norm. Norm is iconic. I don't watch the show, but I know he's iconic. They even also reunite with Carla Tortelli. She looks familiar too. Rhea Perlman. She does look familiar. Why? I don't know. And also Barfly's Paul Crepins and Phil and Cliff's old post office nemesis Walt. This show sounds wild, bro. In the 11th season episode of Frasier, Caught in the Act, Frasier's ex-married wife, or married ex-wife, children's entertainer Nanny G, comes to town and invites him backstage for a rendezvous. I know how to spell. Nanny G appeared on the Cheers episode One Hugs, the Others Doesn't, 1982, and was portrayed by Emma Thompson. In this episode of Frasier, though, she's portrayed by Laurie Metcalf, because I assume Emma Thompson was really expensive. A younger version of the character, this time played by Dinah Waters, appeared in the second episode of the season 9 of Frasier, Don Juan in Hell Part 2, along with Neuwirth and Shelley Long reprising their roles as Lilith and Diane Chambers, respectively. In this episode, Rita Wilson also reprises her role as Frasier's mother Hester, which she briefly debuted in the season 7 premiere, Mamma Mia. In Don Juan in Hell Part 2, Diane also references the season 3 episode of Cheers, Diane Meets Mom, in which Hester, who was then portrayed by Nancy Marshland, threatened Diane's life. Diane, once again portrayed by Shelley Long, plays a central role in the show where Diane comes back, season 3 episode 14, and had a brief cameo in the season 2 episode Adventures in Paradise Part 2. Some characters of Frasier had appearances previously in minor roles on Cheers. In the episode Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Postman, John Mahoney played a character named Cy Flembeck, an over-the-hill jingle writer hired by Rebecca to write a jingle for the bar. In it, Kelsey Grammer and Mahoney exchanged a few lines. Perry Giplin appeared in a Cheers episode titled Woody Gets an Election, playing a reporter who interviews Woody when he runs for office. And the set of Frasier was built over the set of Cheers on the same stage after it had finished filming, which is a pretty cool fun fact.
And maybe I'm often misconstrued, but babe, I'll never pull your leg.
Mercy.
Frasier is one of the most critically acclaimed comedy series of all time, and one of the most successful spin-off series in television history. Most times when spin-offs happen for popular TV shows, they don't really work out so well. Joey. Oh my god, guys, that cough. Don't know where that cough came from. I apologize. Critics and commentators have broadly held the show in high regard. Caroline Frost said that the series overall showed a high level of wit, but noted that many critics felt that the marriage of Daphne and Niles in season 10 had removed much of the show's comic tension. Ken Tucker felt that their marriage made the series seem desperate for storylines, while Robert Bianco felt that it was symptomatic of a show that had begun to dip in quality after so much time on the air. Kelsey Grammer acknowledged that the creative lull, saying that over the course of 2 later seasons, the show took itself too seriously. Commentators acknowledged that there was an improvement following the return of writers Christopher Lloyd and Joe Keenan, although not necessarily to its earlier higher standards. Writing about the first season, John O'Connor described Frasier as being a relatively unoriginal concept, but said that it was generally a splendid act. While Tucker thought that the second season benefited greatly from a mix of high and low humor, Tucker's comment is referring to what Grammer described as a rule of the series that the show should not play down to its audience. Kevin Cherry believes that Frasier was able to stay fresh by not making any contemporary commentary, therefore allowing the show to be politically and socially neutral. Other commentators such as Hayden Bush disagree, believing that the series of Frasier can be attributed to the comedic timing and the rapport between the characters. Joseph J. Dabrowski and Kate Dabrowski praised the overall message of the series, which across 11 seasons sees several lonely, broken individuals develop a warm, caring relationship. While individual episodes may vary in quality, the series as a whole carries with a definitive theme and evolution from the pilot to the finale. The Economist devoted an entire article to the 25th anniversary of the show's premiere, stating that it's clear that audiences still demand the sort of intelligent and heartfelt comedy that Frasier provides. Despite the criticisms of the later seasons, these critics were unanimous in praising at least the early seasons, with varied commentary on the series' demise ranging from believing, like Bianco, that the show had run its course, to those like Dana Stevens, who bemoaned the end of Frasier as the end of situation comedy for adults. Critics compared the it's a comedy that seeks to entertain an audience through situations that are highly exaggerated, blah, blah, blah. Elements of the series, especially in later seasons, to the older sitcom Face Company. NBC News contributor Wendell Whitler described the moments of misunderstanding as inspired by the classic comedy and manners, as were the frequent deflations of Frasier's pomposity. I know how to spell.
Just don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. Calling again.
Well, I've been avoiding it long enough. The elephant in the room. The Frasier revival. AKA the sequel to the first Frasier show. You know what? Why are we even here? Why are we even talking about this? We just have to. The second season is literally premiering tomorrow. As I record this video, it's Wednesday. It's gonna come out tomorrow. And since I haven't even watched the first Frasier, I'm not even gonna bother watching this. Even my friend Bob hates this. He doesn't think it exists. It's like Voldemort to him. He just doesn't want to acknowledge it. I actually do remember when they announced that Frasier was getting revived, and I was like, oh, who's Frasier? That's mean. I'm sorry, I didn't know anything about Frasier back then. So what is this revival about then? Well, Frasier's back in Boston. If you remember, this whole video, I said that Frasier was from Cheers. The show Cheers. Cheers takes place in Boston. He moved to Seattle for the spin-off show, but now he's back in Boston because, his dad's dead, and he ended his 20-year relationship with Charlotte, and his TV show. That's like three things. Three things Frasier loves, I think. And now he's moving back to Boston because he wants to have a relationship with his son, Frederick, who is now a Boston firefighter. So logically, Frasier's like, how do I get a relationship with my son? I'm going to take a professorship at Harvard University and move into my son's apartment building. And then, with the help of his friends, family, and new colleagues, except for Niles, Frasier starts to embark on his third act. Makes sense. The first act was Cheers, the second act was Frasier, and now the third act is Frasier again? So, talks of the revival actually began way back in 2016, but they were initially denied by Kelsey Grammer, though they did resurface into mid to late 2018 with him confirming it was being looked into. And then in February of March of 2019, he said in several interviews that a reboot was likely. He indicated that a new season would pay tribute to John Mahoney, who portrayed Martin and passed away in 2018. In late 2019, Kelsey Grammer said that they hatched the plan for a Frasier revival, and it was originally reported that it would air in 2020. In February of 2021, it was reported the revival was being discussed at Paramount Plus, possibly for a 10-episode season order for 2022. Then, in February of 2021, the revival was greenlit for an exclusive debut on Paramount Plus. Kelsey Grammer said that he gleefully anticipated sharing the next chapter in the continuing journey of Dr. Frasier Crane, and he had spent over 20 years of his creative life on the Paramount lot. Paramount Plus officially gave the revival a 10-episode season order in October of 2022. Now, there's a reason why Niles isn't in the show. David Hyde Pierce had multiple conversations with the showrunners about reprising his role of Niles, but it was later reported that he had declined as he did not think that there was much for Niles to do in the revival, and that the other actors from the original series were also either not returning or unlikely to return. Jane Leaves, who played Martin's physical therapist and Niles' love interest, later wife, Daphne Moon, and Perry Gilpin, who played Frasier's producer and close friend to Ross Doyle, had previously discussed the possibility of the revival. Then, in January of last year, Jack Cutmore Scott joined the cast as Freddie Crane. It was also reported that English actor Nicholas Lyndhurst would be joining the cast. Later that month, Anders Keith was cast as Niles and Daphne's son David, while Jess Salguero was casted as Freddie's roommate Eve. In February, Tox Olagundoy was casted as Olivia. If I butchered that, I am sorry. Yo, but you actually might know her because Tox was in Steven Universe as Nanfua Pizza and Mrs. Beakley on DuckTales. The revival of DuckTales, but in March of last year, it was announced that Bebe Neuwirth will be reprising her role as Frasier's ex-wife Lilith in the revival. In April of last year, it was announced that Gliplin would also reprise her role as Roz. Both would reportedly feature in guest or recurring roles, but not main cast. So, I'm not going to get into the filming, obviously. Second season's coming tomorrow, and I can finally end this video. Oh, wait, I should read the reception, though, because, it actually is a good reception. On the review aggregator on the website Rotten Tomatoes, I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes, but we're going to keep going. 60% of 73 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 6.1 out of 10. The website's consensus reads, with Kelsey Grammer safely back in the role he was born to play, Frasier scores as comfort viewing even if it can't quite compare to the original classic series. I legit got nothing else to say. This video has been taking me like days to make. I really should have to release this now because second season comes out tomorrow, and I don't want to release this as the second season of The Revel comes out. Also, I am starving. I need to eat something. I have not eaten at all. I'm so hungry.
Quite stylish.
What do you do with tossed salads and scrambled eggs? A world full of circles and those square pegs. The blues is always calling tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're making me tossed salads and scrambled